Without naming names, what's the grimiest rental car story you can think of? Or name names.
I don't know. Atlanta is obviously a hotbed for hip hop videos and stuff like that. And so when Lil Wayne was going to jail, and like right when they had to take all his teeth out because they didn't want him to go into prison with gold and diamond teeth.
I'll tell you what, the runway to this story is amazing, Ed.
Yeah, I like where you're going already.
Shooting videos every 3 to 4 hours with him so that they could release them over the next 12 or 18 months, whatever his stint was.
It's so funny.
So they were busting him around in a Phantom, and we were taking cars to different spots, and he was recording these featured spots where he only had 3 or 4 lines in a song with some terrible artist. And I remember we were out.
There's a lot of money in this, by the way, what he's doing.
And it might have been who was the guy that had 12 children with 11 wives?
Akon.
No.
I don't know. Just Birdman. Master P.
He had a painted on beard.
What?
Drake.
I don't know.
No, it's not Shawty Low.
I don't know. Anyway.
But he died a few years ago while they were about to film a reality show with him. But both of them, most rappers are about 5'0". And most early 2000s exotic cars do not have vertical height adjustment in the seats.
Okay.
And so Lil Wayne pulls up in the Phantom and everybody's don't look him in the eyes or he will run away, and we can't make him make the videos if he runs away. And
what?
And they get in there and they're both in this car pretending to drive it. And
is it on a dolly or are they just sitting there?
They're just sitting there. They're not even pretending. They're not like they're moving their hands on the steering wheel, but they're not actually nobody's gonna ever believe that this is happening. And they were doing this scene. They're like, we can't see them. Where's the car guy? And I'm right behind the camera. I'm here. And they're like, raise the seats. They don't raise. You're going to have to find all the phone books that still exist. And that's what they did. They just kept stacking stuff in there to raise them up so that they could be seen.
That's very funny.
It was the middle of winter, so everything was just freezing. And my 360 Spider was in a different video, and they had to have the roof down, obviously, to pretend. And they had these girls wearing nothing, and they're just shivering. And they had to make them stop long enough to get their shots. And they would... they're dancing all over the cars, and it's an absolute mess. But I remember we were filming in front of a fried chicken stand in the parking lot of a nightclub that was made out of 2 non-level, mobile homes. Yes. And it had kind of a deck that joined them, and the cars were fanned out. And this was before, Waka Flocka Flame.
Yeah.
Anything. And his mom was financing everything. So she was writing checks the whole night to everybody in this floor length mink jacket.
Who's Waka Flocka Flame's mom? Is she a somebody?
I think that's just where all the money came from for the early productions. And so the he didn't get shot in a jean store in Atlanta.
I'm not up to date on the Atlanta crimes. If you want to talk about the LA shootings, we could talk about that.
I'm sure that it's a whole different thing. But as they're shooting this video, the most amazing thing happens. There's these girls in swimsuits dancing in front of the cars, which are in front of the deck, which is in front of the fried chicken mobile homes. And on the deck, there's this guy, a homeless guy, just wanders onto the set and just starts dancing all over the place. And it took him 15 minutes to realize that he was there. And then they sent all these guys up there to grab him and get him off. And it was incredible.
By then, was he in the video and he's in a couple shots? They don't know. It's fuck it, just leave it.
Of course, they repeat everything 100 times every time.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. And then I had to drive that 360 Spider home in the freezing cold because with the roof down, because the tops freeze, the hydraulic fluid jumps up and they won't work under about 35 degrees.
I remember that. Yeah.
So I was going 140 miles an hour, which in a 360 is 400 miles an hour in a Bugatti. And I was like, man, I just hope there's a cop here that's going to arrest me and let me sit in a warm car. Please let this happen.
When you were presumably renting these cars out for video production and stuff like that, were you running a full-on rental company, or were you just listing your personal cars for sale for production or for rent for production use?
No, it was a full-on rental company,
Okay.
yeah, with everything. Yeah, it wasn't just the early stages of Turo.
All right, no, because I was just gonna like. There's good money in that, as you well know, in renting cars out for productions if they're the right cars, of course.
Right.
You know, and I've done a couple photo shoots for commercial with my Countach. Countaches are in particularly high demand, but it's really. I'm really when I go and babysit the car for it, like, bro, I'm so like I'm such a fucking bitch about it. And so I was gonna ask you about like if you cared about the video hoes dancing in the car, but no, if they're just assets of a company that's renting shit out, you don't care.
You kind of have to forget about that. That's one of the pathologies of the exotic car rental industry is you have to emotionally prepare yourself every time the car pulls out of your lot that it's probably going to come back half on a tow truck.
Yeah.
And it just is the nature of things. Like, you know, I had planned, it was mostly me, pretty much all me. I would hire people occasionally to help with deliveries and stuff like that. But, you know, I only had like 5 cars because honestly in Atlanta, that was all you'd ever need. And so the week that I was getting married in 2009, I had kind of planned, all right, if I'm going to take a honeymoon, all the cars have to be in. Like, there's just got to be a week of no revenue. And I had a customer who was an ex-Atlanta police officer rent my Gallardo. And then the next day he came back and he said he had a friend in town. He wanted to rent the 612 Skyeti that I had in the fleet. And they took those out and they kept extending the days. Like, they'd come back and pay in cash for an extra day. But I've already verified their insurance and everything. Like, it's kind of okay to take a cash deal at that point. But then as of like Wednesday, I was like, you know, the wedding's Saturday. You got to start bringing the car's got to be back tomorrow. And they're like, oh, yeah. But then they stopped answering the phone. And I found out they had crashed the Gallardo, and I followed its tracking device, and it was, you know, the front knocked off of it, and he had just abandoned it in this like pseudo body shop down in the worst part of Atlanta. And the 612, I couldn't even find on it had dropped off the tracking device. I was like, oh, this is not good. And he had sold it to a guy for $15,000, a 2008 BMW 750 Li, and he had agreed to some payment structure that when I eventually talked to him about it, he didn't even remember. And the only piece of information he got from the guy who he had sold my Ferrari to was that his name was Lucky. And so I'm spending, like, I literally get a call from Lucky's wife on Thursday night at my bachelor party, and she said, my husband bought your Ferrari today, but I don't think we really want it. So will you bring us back our BMW and our cash, and then we'll just forget all about all this? And that was the first I learned. I hope this is a prank by my friends.
Oh my
but I
God.
have a sneaking suspicion it might not be. And so I actually we were chasing that car all over town, and it ended up, it was still missing. I just let my lawyers try to chase it. They got nothing done during my honeymoon. And I was able to negotiate getting it back when I got home. And the guy, I finally got in touch with Lucky directly. I had just spoken to his wife up to that point, and she said, and he said, well, I want $5,000 to have the car back. And I'm like, dude,
well, wait,
you know it's stolen.
Yeah, it's stolen. You have the title, right?
Right. Oh yeah. But the problem is, as you might know, it is not Grand Theft Auto when you take a rental car.
I didn't know that.
Theft by conversion.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you don't get like an APB, people out, the cops chasing it. Like, literally, I talked to a cop standing next to the car at the Lenox Mall valet, and he said, I can't take it from them. And I'm like, well, you're in a different county. I understand that. But I mean, you've spoken to a cop in the county where it was stolen. He's like, yeah, but because of the nature of it being a rental, like, it's really a civil violation what they've done by keeping the car too long. And, you know, there's not much I can do.
Nope.
It's insane. So we're running down there, but of course they leave by then. And that was it. All for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was on the phone. I told my wife, I was like, if my phone rings during the ceremony, I am answering it because we can't afford for this car never to be found. Because with rental car insurance, even if you have real rental car insurance, you can't file a claim on it because they'll just drop you at your next renewal cycle and you'll be out of business for that reason. So I was like, we can't file a claim, or else we have to also close the business and then try to sell these depreciated cars.
That's shitty.
So when I got back, I told the cops this. I was like, he wants $5,000. And I'm like, I don't even have $5,000. Like, I was barely making my payments on these cars most of the time. And they're like, well, ask if he'll take a check. And I was like, well, I don't feel like I should be the one to have to remind you guys of this, but it's a felony to balance a $5,000. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just do it. And Lucky was happy to take a check.
And
after all these years, I actually can't remember the name I made it out to. Like, I should know Lucky's name, but in my head, he's still just Lucky. And
it's better when it's just Lucky, I think. Especially if you just made the check out to Lucky.
Lucky, yeah. XOXO.
So you just cancel the check, take the car, and that's it?
Exactly. Yeah. And then,
look, when you have cops
holding the check, and I said, no, that's an extortion payment for the return of stolen property. So
you can ignore what that one was extortion.
Yeah. And this sweet little girl standing at a bank teller was probably like, I'm sorry, Mr. Lucky. Mr. Ed said that I'm not supposed to give you the money.
That's fucking great.